Hi, I'm Rick Rheins, Senior Rabbi at Temple Sinai in Denver, Colorado. This week's Torah portion is Ki Teitzei from chapters 21 through 25 of the book of Deuteronomy. There are many, many mitzvot in this week's Torah portion, 74 altogether, commandments. 27 of the commandments are positive, i.e., these are commandments that say you must do this or you should do this. And 47 of the commandments are negative. Lo ta'aseh, don't do this, don't do that. And altogether, as you're reading through it, there's such a wide variety in dealing with interpersonal relations, how we treat the stranger, how we treat the captive, how we behave ritually, socially, morally. And I wanted to focus on a mitzvah that's in chapter 23 that may have escaped your attention as you've read through it. And nevertheless, it speaks to the principles that guide Judaism to this very day. And it says this: when there's a needy person who is walking along through a field, and that field it's a vineyard, has grapes, that hungry person can take some of the grapes and eat of them to satisfy his or her hunger, but may not pick grapes to put into a vessel for later. And if that hungry person is passing through a field of grain, that person can take some of that grain and eat it to satisfy a hunger, but may not take a sickle and cut down the standing grain for later. And you might think that um, uh, that act makes perfect sense. On one hand, satisfying the hunger of this person, but why can't this hungry person, this poor person, take enough for later? Because the Torah makes sure that we have a sensitivity for all the parties that are in concern. The one is the hungry person. The hungry person, yes, of course, eat, get some nourishment, sustain yourself so that you can go on your journey. But don't think that I can take as much as I want for later, maybe even to sell or just for tomorrow, for instance, because that would be to disregard the feelings and the position of the farmer. Now, on one hand, you could say, well, the farmer has this huge vineyard and this large field of grain. That is a person of some power and privilege. And the poor person, of course, can take all that he wants because the person of power and privilege owes it to them. And the Torah says, nah, what do you mean, power and privilege? That farmer, by the way, plowed that field, planted that field with the seed, grew the plants, watered, protected, nourished them with the plants with fertilizer or whatever, protected it from the insects, weeded it, and then even still doesn't have a profit in the harvest of that crop until he or she harvests that vineyard and the field of grain, and then takes it to market, and then hopefully gets enough of a profit to pay back to the person that lent them the money for the seed and the plowing and the harvesting, because all of that was an investment by that farmer. And so much is weighing on that farmer's credibility to have a good crop that he or she could take to market to sustain his and her family, right? So it's not just one party that is being concerned here. The Torah says, yes, if you're hungry, take enough to eat, but don't disregard the vulnerability of the farmer, this hardworking person who's invested so much and who is vulnerable because he had to, as most farmers do, borrow in order to have the possibility of a crop that they could turn a profit in and to live on. And it gets to that point where we look at a situation and we sometimes take sides. The hungry person, yes, can take all that he or she wants. No, because if you take, who are they taking from? Within the Torah, within halakha, there's a principle called lifnim min surat hadin. Lifnim min surat hadin, before and beyond the letter of the law. The law may say that the farmer owns the land, has the crops. It's his or her property. No one is eligible to come and pick anything from it at all. And then Torah said, well, on one hand, you could probably be factually correct that you're legally entitled to hold on to every grape and every ear of grain. But that is a hungry person over there. That poor person is hungry. Let them have something to nourish themselves. And if you are the one taking from that land, don't think that, well, I see it, I can take it because that's what I want, and it's my empowerment. No, also have some sensitivity to go beyond what you think is your right, to consider the rights of others. In this Torah portion with 74 mitzvot, and each of them, we are fine-tuning our moral and ethical sense. Yes, I want to try to find what's the right thing to do, but I also have to act bifnim min surat hadin, to go beyond the letter of the law, to be sensitive to all the parties who are involved, because that's how we live, with a sense of justice and goodness and fairness in our world. Shabbat Shalom.